I can see the cushion flying through the air before it hits him. The soft thud against Elias's chest, the way it bounces off and lands on the floor between us. I threw it without thinking, the way I always do, quick, impulsive, trying to fill the space with something light. The words came just as easily. Admit it, you'd date me if you could. I'm grinning as I say it. That same crooked smile I've perfected over 20 years of deflecting anything that might cut too deep. It's supposed to be nothing. Just another joke in the endless catalog we've built between us. Another way to dance around the edges of something I've never been brave enough to name. But then the silence stretches too long. Elias doesn't laugh. He doesn't roll his eyes or throw the cushion back at me. He doesn't fire off one of his usual comebacks, dry and perfectly timed. Instead, he goes still in that way that makes the whole room feel smaller, like the air itself is holding its breath. He's looking at me now, really looking, and there's something in his eyes I've never seen before. Or maybe I've seen it, in glimpses, in moments I convinced myself I imagined. But now it's there undeniable and steady, and I can't pretend it away. The laughter dies in my throat. This is Elias's dorm room, though it might as well be mine. I've spent more nights here than in my own bed down the hall. His roommate transferred schools last month, leaving us with this space that feels both too big and too small at the same time. The walls are bare except for a single poster of some indie band I introduced him to freshman year. His desk is cluttered with textbooks and coffee cups, evidence of the late-night study sessions where I mostly just distract him while he actually does the work. The afternoon light slants through the window, casting long shadows across the rumpled bedsheets where we've been sprawled for the past hour, supposedly studying for midterms, but mostly just existing in each other's space. It's October, and the campus outside is painted in those impossible autumn colors that make everything look like a movie set. But right now, all I can see is the way the light catches in Elias's dark hair, the serious set of his mouth. He's 21 to my 20, though he's always felt older in the ways that matter. More grounded, more sure of himself. While I've spent 2 years bouncing between majors and friend groups and versions of myself I try on like clothes that never quite fit, Elias has remained constant. Steady. The one person who sees through all my noise and somehow still chooses to stay. I met him in freshman orientation, back when I was louder and more desperate to be liked. He was sitting alone in the back of the auditorium, reading a book while everyone else chattered nervously around him. I made some joke, I can't even remember what, and he looked up at me with these calm, assessing eyes and said something that made me laugh harder than I had in weeks. By the end of that first week, we were inseparable in the way that sometimes happens in college, when you're both homesick and overwhelmed and grateful to find someone who gets your particular brand of chaos. Our friendship has been built on easy rhythms. Shared meals in the dining hall where I do most of the talking and he does most of the listening. Study sessions that devolve into debates about movies or books or nothing at all. Late nights when the rest of the world feels impossibly far away and it's just us, making each other laugh until our sides hurt. But underneath all of that, there's been something else. A current I've felt but never acknowledged. A tension that makes every casual touch feel significant. The way he'll bump my shoulder when he's teasing me. The way I'll reach for his hand when I'm trying to make a point, letting my fingers linger just a moment too long. The way we'll fall asleep watching movies, closer together than friends usually are, and wake up tangled together like it's the most natural thing in the world. I've always been good at pretending these moments don't mean anything, at turning everything into a joke before it can become real. It's easier that way, safer. I learned a long time ago that if you keep everyone laughing, they don't look too closely at what you're really feeling. But now Elias is looking, really looking, and I can feel something shifting between us. The careful balance we've maintained for 2 years is tilting, and I don't know how to write it. Don't know if I want to. His book is closed on the bed beside him, forgotten. We were supposed to be helping each other with psychology notes, but we've been distracted by everything and nothing, the way we always are. I made some comment about our professor's ridiculous bow ties. He made some observation about classical conditioning that was probably brilliant, but went over my head. And then, because I can never leave well enough alone, I grabbed the cushion from behind my head and threw it at him. The joke was supposed to land us back on safe ground, supposed to fill the quiet that had settled between us with something familiar and harmless. Instead, it's opened up something I'm not prepared for. My heart is beating faster now, though I'm trying to keep my expression casual, trying to maintain the easy smile that's gotten me through countless moments when I didn't know what else to do. But I can feel cracks forming in the mask I've worn for so long, and I'm terrified of what Elias might see underneath. He's still looking at me with that steady, serious expression. His hands are folded in his lap, completely still. Everything about him radiates a kind of quiet intensity that makes me want to either run from the room or move closer. I don't know which impulse is stronger. The silence stretches between us like a bridge I'm afraid to cross. Outside, I can hear the distant sounds of campus life, students calling to each other across the quad, the hum of traffic on the street beyond. But here, in this small room filled with afternoon light and the weight of everything we've never said, it feels like we're the only two people in the world. I want to take it back. The joke, the cushion, the way I'm looking at him like I'm seeing him for the first time. I want to laugh it off and deflect with another joke, something that will restore the comfortable distance we've always maintained. But something in his expression stops me. Something that looks almost like hope. The realization hits me like a physical thing. He's not surprised by what I said. He's not confused or uncomfortable or preparing to laugh it off. He's just waiting with that infinite patience he's always had for me to figure out what comes next. And maybe, I think with a mixture of terror and relief, he's been waiting for a very long time. I've always been the one who talks too much. The one who fills every silence with a story or a joke or some random observation that doesn't really matter but keeps the air from getting too heavy. It's a survival mechanism I developed somewhere around middle school, when I realized that if you can make people laugh, they don't ask too many questions about what's really going on underneath. My parents used to call it charm. Teachers called it disruptive. I called it necessary. But with Elias, the talking has always felt different. Less performative. More like I'm actually sharing something real instead of just putting on a show. He has this way of listening that makes even my most scattered thoughts feel worth saying. He'll nod at the right moments, ask questions that prove he's actually paying attention, let me ramble about whatever meaningless thing is occupying my brain without making me feel like I'm taking up too much space. I think that's when I first started to fall for him, though I didn't recognize it then. It was early in our friendship, maybe 3 weeks in a freshman year. I was having one of those nights where everything felt overwhelming. Homesickness and academic pressure and the constant exhaustion of trying to figure out who I was supposed to be in this new place. I'd shown up at his door with some excuse about needing help with chemistry, but really I just needed someone to remind me that I wasn't completely alone. He let me in without question, made us both terrible instant coffee, and listened while I talked in circles about everything and nothing. When I finally ran out of words, he didn't try to fix anything or offer advice. He just said, in that quiet way of his, that he was glad I'd come over, that his evening was better with me in it. It was such a simple thing to say, but it lodged itself somewhere deep in my chest and never left. Elias has always been my opposite in the ways that matter. Where I'm restless, he's steady. Where I'm loud, he's thoughtful. Where I'm constantly second-guessing myself, he seems to know exactly who he is and what he wants. He's the kind of person who reads philosophy for fun and actually understands it, who can spend hours in comfortable silence, who notices details about people that everyone else misses. He notices everything about me. The way I fidget with my sleeves when I'm nervous. The way my voice gets higher when I'm trying too hard to be funny. The way I always order the same thing at every restaurant we go to, even though I claim to be adventurous. He sees through all my noise to whatever's underneath, and somehow, impossibly, he seems to like what he finds there. Our friendship settled into rhythms that felt as natural as breathing. He'd drag me to the library when I was procrastinating on assignments, and I'd drag him to parties when he'd been hermiting in his room too long. We'd split meals in the dining hall and argue about movies and spend entire afternoons doing absolutely nothing together. On weekends, when most people were either studying frantically or getting drunk, we'd find ourselves in one of our rooms, comfortable in the kind of silence that only comes with people you really trust. But there were moments, small ones, easy to dismiss, when something else crept in. when his hand would brush mine as we reached for the same book, and neither of us would pull away immediately. When I'd catch him looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. When we'd fall asleep during late-night movie marathons, and I'd wake up to find myself curled against his side like it was the most natural thing in the world. I told myself it was just the intensity of college friendships, that everyone got a little too close to their roommates and study partners when you were all living in each other's pockets, figuring out how to be adults. I told myself that the flutter in my chest when he smiled at me was just gratitude for having found such a good friend. I was very good at telling myself things that weren't true. The joking started as a way to test the waters, though I didn't realize that's what I was doing at the time. Little comments about how we acted like a couple sometimes. Teasing about how his mom always asked about me when she called. Hypothetical questions about what we'd be like together, delivered with enough laughter to make them safe. What if we got married and just never told anyone? I'd say, grinning. What if this is all just an elaborate friends-to-lovers story and we're too dumb to see it? He'd always smile and play along, but there was something in his eyes during those moments that I couldn't quite name. Something that made my stomach flip in ways I didn't want to examine too closely. The thing is, I've always known, on some level, that the way I felt about Elias was different from the way I felt about anyone else. Known that the reason I never dated seriously was because no one else made me feel the way he did just by existing in the same room. Knowing that all my jokes about us being together weren't really jokes at all. They were confessions wrapped in enough humor to give me plausible deniability. But knowing something and being ready to do something about it are two very different things. And I've spent 20 years perfecting the art of not being ready for anything that might actually matter. Until now. Until this moment, with him looking at me like he's seeing straight through to all the truths I've been hiding behind laughter. Until I realized that maybe, just maybe, he's been waiting for me to stop joking around and start being serious. The thought terrifies me, but not as much as the thought of pretending anymore. The silence has weight now, pressing down on us like something physical. I can hear my own heartbeat, too loud in my ears, and I wonder if he can hear it too. The afternoon light has shifted while we've been sitting here, casting new shadows across his face, and I realize I've been staring at him for longer than I should. Longer than friends usually stare at each other. I force out a laugh, the sound harsh and unnatural in the quiet room. It's my default response to anything that feels too real, too heavy, too close to the truth I've been running from. The laugh is supposed to deflate the moment, turn it back into something manageable. Something safe. Relax, I say, the word coming out too fast, too bright. I'm couldn't. But even as I say it, I know it's not working. The laugh rings false, and the smile I paste on my face feels like a mask that's suddenly too tight. I can see in his expression that he knows I'm retreating, pulling back into the comfortable distance of humor and deflection. For a second, I think he might let me. Might smile and shake his head and throw the cushion back at me, restoring our usual rhythm. Instead, he tilts his head slightly, studying me with those dark eyes that have always seen too much. When he speaks, his voice is quiet, steady, stripped of any pretense. I'm not. 2 words. That's all. But they land between us like stones dropped into still water, sending ripples through everything I thought I knew about us, about him, about the careful balance we've maintained for 2 years. I'm not kidding. He means, I'm not joking. I'm not playing along with your game of let's pretend this doesn't mean anything. The words hang in the air, impossible to take back or laugh away. There's no humor in his voice, no smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Just truth, offered simply and without apology, like he's been carrying it around for a long time and has finally decided to set it down between us. My chest tightens, a feeling like drowning and surfacing at the same time. Because suddenly every joke we've ever shared, every casual comment about us being together, every hypothetical question I've posed with a grin and a shrug, all of it takes on a different weight, a different meaning. I think about the time last month when we were walking back from dinner and I bumped his shoulder and said we should just elope and save ourselves the trouble of dating other people. He laughed, but quietly, and when I looked at him, his expression was soft in a way that made something flutter in my stomach. I'd assumed he was just amused by my dramatics, but now I wonder if he was thinking something else entirely. I think about the way he always saves me a seat in lectures, even when we haven't talked about meeting up. The way he remembers how I take my coffee, and which movies make me cry, and that I can't sleep when it's too quiet. The way he looks at me sometimes when he thinks I'm not paying attention, like he's trying to memorize something. I think about all the times I've said, what if we were together? What if this was real? What if we stopped pretending? And how he's never once dismissed it outright. Never rolled his eyes or told me to stop being ridiculous. He's always just smiled, patient and careful, like he was waiting for something. Waiting for me to stop hiding behind the laughter. The realization crashes over me in waves. This thing I've been dancing around, this feeling I've been disguising as friendship and deflecting with humor. It's not one-sided. It's not some secret I've been carrying alone. Elias feels it too. Has maybe been feeling it longer than I have, with more clarity, more certainty. While I've been making jokes to avoid the truth, he's been living with it. I want to say something, but my throat feels tight, and all my usual words have abandoned me. The easy comebacks, the deflecting humor, the casual observations that usually fill any uncomfortable silence. None of it seems adequate for this moment. For the way he's looking at me like he's laying all his cards on the table and waiting to see what I'll do with them. Part of me wants to run. It would be so easy to stand up, make some excuse about needing to study or call my parents or literally anything that would get me out of this room and away from the weight of his honesty. I could pretend this conversation never happened, go back to making jokes that keep everything light and manageable and safe. But there's another part of me, a part that's been growing stronger with each passing second, that doesn't want to run, that wants to stay right here in this moment, terrifying as it is, and see what happens when I stop pretending. Because the truth is, I've been pretending for a long time. Pretending that the way I feel about Elias is normal friendship. Pretending that I don't notice the way my pulse quickens when he's close, or the way I find excuses to touch him, or the way I've never been interested in anyone else because no one else is him. Pretending that when I joke about us being together, I'm not describing exactly what I want. His confession, because that's what it is, even if he hasn't used the word, has shifted something fundamental between us. There's no going back to the way things were before, to the comfortable ambiguity we've been living in. The truth is out now, at least partially, and it's changing the very air we breathe. I can see in the way he's sitting, still and patient, but also somehow more present, like he's finally allowed himself to be fully here with me. I can feel it in the way the space between us seems both infinite and non-existent, like we're separated by everything and nothing at all. The choice is mine now. I can keep pretending, keep hiding behind jokes and deflection, and the safety of never having to risk anything real. Or I can step into this truth he's offered, this possibility that's been waiting in the space between our words for longer than I want to admit. The afternoon light continues to shift, painting new patterns on the walls, and I realize that whatever I say next will change everything. And for the first time in my life, I think I might be ready for that kind of change. We don't talk about it immediately. Not that afternoon, when the weight of his words settles between us like something we need time to understand. Not that evening, when we order pizza and pretend to watch a movie neither of us is really seeing. Not even the next morning, when I wake up on his floor, tangled in the spare blanket he always keeps for me, and find him already awake, looking at me with something soft and careful in his expression. But everything changes anyway. It starts small, so small I almost convince myself I'm imagining it. The way his hand lingers when he passes me my coffee, fingers brushing mine for just a moment longer than necessary. The way I catch myself watching him when he's reading, noting the concentration in his face, the way he absently pushes his hair back from his forehead. The way we both seem more aware of the space between us, whether we're sitting close together on his narrow bed or standing across the room from each other. The jokes don't stop entirely, but they carry different weight now. When I tease him about his terrible taste in music, there's something underneath it that wasn't there before. When he makes some dry comment about my inability to keep my side of the room clean, I feel heat creep up my neck that has nothing to do with embarrassment and everything to do with the way he's looking at me while he says it. We've always been comfortable with casual touch, the shoulder bumps, the way we'll sprawl across each other during movie nights, the unconscious way we gravitate toward each other in groups. But now, every touch feels deliberate, charged with possibility. When he reaches across me to grab something from his desk, I'm hyper-aware of the warmth of his arm against mine. When I absently lean against him while we're both reading, I notice the way he doesn't pull away, the way he seems to relax into the contact. It's like learning a new language, one made up of glances and pauses and moments that stretch just a beat too long. I find myself cataloging these interactions, turning them over in my mind when I'm alone, trying to decipher what they mean. There's the morning when I'm rushing to get ready for my early class and can't find my favorite sweater. He pulls it out of his laundry basket, wrinkled but clean, and hands it to me without explanation. I must have left it here weeks ago, but the fact that he washed it, kept it, makes something flutter in my chest. When I thank him, his smile is small and private, like we're sharing a secret. There's the afternoon when we're studying in the library, and I'm complaining about our statistics professor. He's not really listening. I can tell by the way he's still staring at his textbook, but when I pause in my rant, he looks up and says, quietly, that I'm cute when I'm indignant. The words stop me mid-sentence, and for a moment, we just stare at each other across the table. Then he looks back down at his book like he hasn't just turned my entire world sideways. There's the evening when we're walking back from dinner, and it starts to rain. We end up pressed under a narrow awning, waiting for it to pass, standing closer than we need to. I can smell his laundry detergent, feel the warmth radiating from his body. When I look up at him, he's already looking down at me, and there's something in his expression that makes my breath catch. The rain stops eventually, but neither of us moves immediately. We stand there in the sudden quiet, aware of every inch of space between us, until someone else approaches the awning and breaks the spell. I start noticing things about him I've somehow missed before, or maybe I'm just letting myself see them now. The way he always makes sure I eat when I'm stressed and forget to take care of myself. The way he remembers things I mention in passing, that I have a dentist appointment, that I'm worried about calling my grandmother, that I saw a movie I want to see. The way he looks at me when he thinks I'm not paying attention, soft and fond, and something deeper that makes my stomach flip. And I notice things about myself, too. How my mood improves when I see him walking across campus toward me. How I find excuses to be in his space, borrowing books I don't need, asking for help with assignments I could figure out on my own. How I've started paying attention to what I wear when I know I'll see him. Choosing shirts that fit better, making sure my hair doesn't look completely ridiculous. The shift is gradual but undeniable. We're still the same people, still sharing the same easy friendship, but there's a new layer underneath it all. A awareness that hums between us, making every interaction feel significant. My friends start to notice. Emma makes some comment about how Elias and I have been spending even more time together than usual, if that's possible. Marcus asks, with the bluntness that characterizes most of his observations, when we're finally going to get together. I deflect with humor, the way I always do, but their questions stick with me. Because the truth is, I'm starting to wonder the same thing. Starting to imagine what it would feel like to close the distance between us, to let all this careful, circling resolve into something real. The thought terrifies me and thrills me in equal measure. I catch myself thinking about kissing him at the most inappropriate times, during lectures while we're eating lunch, in the middle of conversations about completely unrelated things. I wonder what his hands would feel like tangled in my hair, what he would taste like, what sounds he might make if I press my mouth to the curve of his neck. These thoughts should probably scare me more than they do. I've never really considered myself someone who thought about other guys this way. But with Elias, it doesn't feel like a revelation about my sexuality so much as a revelation about him specifically, about us, and what we could be if we were brave enough to try. The tension builds between us like a storm gathering on the horizon, inevitable and electric. We're both waiting for something, though neither of us seems willing to name what it is. At least, not yet. It happens on a Thursday night in late October, when the campus has settled into that quiet lull between midterms and finals. We're in his room again, because we always seem to end up in his room. The space has become a sanctuary of sorts, the place where we can exist without the performance that the rest of the world requires. We're supposed to be watching a movie. something he picked from a small collection of DVDs he keeps stacked beside his ancient laptop. But I can't focus on the screen, can't follow the plot, or care about the characters. All my attention is drawn to the way we're arranged on his narrow bed, sprawled across the unmade sheets with careful casualness, close enough that I can feel the warmth of his body, but not quite touching. The movie plays on, forgotten, while I become hyper-aware of every small movement he makes. The way he shifts his weight, settling deeper into the pillows. The way his breathing changes when he's relaxed. The way his hand rests on the comforter between us, close enough that I could reach for it if I were brave enough. I'm not watching the movie, but I can't look at him either. Not directly. Instead, I stare at the ceiling, at the patterns the laptop screen casts on the walls, at anything that won't force me to confront the fact that we're alone together in his bed, and all I can think about is what might happen if I finally stop pretending. The tension that's been building between us for weeks feels particularly sharp tonight. Maybe it's the intimacy of the setting, or the way the darkness outside makes the room feel separate from the rest of the world. Maybe it's just that I'm tired of carrying this one around like a secret that's getting heavier every day. Without thinking, without planning what I'm going to say, I let the words slip out. They come wrapped in the familiar packaging of humor, but there's something different about them this time. Something more honest. Bet you couldn't handle me as a boyfriend. The words hang in the air between us, and I immediately want to take them back. Not because they're not true, but because they're too true. Because underneath the teasing tone, they're a real question, a real invitation, a real confession of everything I've been feeling but haven't known how to say. I chance a look at him and find that he's already turned toward me. The laptop screen casts blue light across his face, highlighting the serious set of his mouth, the way he's studying me like he's trying to solve a puzzle. For a moment, neither of us moves. The movie continues playing in the background, dialogue and music that might as well be white noise. All that matters is the space between us, charged with possibility and fear and 2 years' worth of carefully unspoken truths. Then he shifts, turning his body fully toward mine, and suddenly he's close enough that I can see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Close enough that I can feel his breath against my skin. Close enough that if either of us moved just a few inches, we'd be crossing a line we've been dancing around for months. When he speaks, his voice is low and steady, stripped of any pretense or hesitation. There's no laughter in it, no deflection. Just truth, offered quietly in the darkness of his dorm room. Try me. 2 words, but they hit me like a physical force. Because there's no ambiguity in them, no room for misinterpretation. He's not playing along with another joke. He's not letting me hide behind humor. He's answering my question with complete seriousness, and his answer is yes. Yes, he could handle me as a boyfriend. Yes, he wants to try. Yes, this thing between us is real and worth exploring, and maybe he's been waiting for me to stop joking around and start being honest about what I want. The revelation crashes over me in waves. This isn't new for him. This isn't some sudden realization or moment of curiosity. He's thought about this, about us, about what it would mean to cross the line from friendship into something more. And he's decided he wants it. My heart is beating so fast I'm surprised he can't hear it. Everything in me wants to close the distance between us, to reach for him, to finally act on all the one I've been carrying around. But there's also terror, sharp and cold, because this is real now. This is the moment where everything changes, where we either move forward together or destroy something beautiful in the attempt. I can feel the weight of the choice settling over me. I could laugh it off, turn it back into a joke, retreat to the safety of our usual banter. Part of me wants to, because it would be easier, because wanting something and having it are 2 very different kinds of vulnerability, and I've spent most of my life avoiding the second kind. But looking at him now, at the openness in his expression, at the way he's offering himself without reservation or pretense, I realize I don't want to run anymore. I don't want to hide behind jokes or deflect with humor or pretend that this isn't exactly what I've been hoping for. The movie continues playing, but it feels like background noise from another world. Here, in this small room filled with the accumulated intimacy of 2 years of friendship, there's only us. Only this moment. Only the choice between fear and courage, between safety and truth. I think about all the times I've joked about us being together, all the hypothetical questions and teasing comments and moments when I've let myself imagine what it might be like. I think about the way he's been patient with me, letting me take my time, never pushing but never backing down either. And I realize that maybe I've been ready for longer than I thought. Maybe all the joking was just practice for this moment, when I finally have the courage to mean it. The space between us feels both infinite and non-existent. Like I could reach for him, or like he's already here, already mine, already everything I've been too afraid to admit I wanted. The only question now is whether I'm brave enough to stop pretending and start reaching. The choice crystallizes in the space of a heartbeat, sharp and clear and terrifying in its simplicity. I can keep hiding behind the comfortable distance of humor, or I can step into the truth that's been waiting between us for months. I can keep pretending this is all casual banter, or I can admit that every joke has been a confession I wasn't ready to make. My voice comes out quieter than I intended, barely above a whisper, but in the stillness of his room it might as well be a shout. The words feel foreign on my tongue, too honest, too real for someone who spent 20 years deflecting anything that might matter. If I kiss you, it won't be a joke. The sentence hangs in the air between us, impossible to take back or laugh away. It's the most honest thing I've said in months, maybe years. No humor to soften the edges. No easy escape route if he doesn't respond the way I hope. Just truth, raw and vulnerable and absolutely terrifying. I watch his face for any sign of retreat, any indication that I've finally pushed too far, crossed a line he wasn't ready for me to cross. But there's no surprise in his expression, no hesitation or doubt. Instead, there's something that looks almost like relief, like he's been waiting for this moment as long as I have. When he speaks, his voice is steady, certain, completely stripped of pretense. It's the voice he uses when he's most serious, when he's saying something he means completely. Good. One word, but contains everything. Permission and invitation and confession all wrapped together. Good, meaning he doesn't want it to be a joke. Good, meaning he's been waiting for me to stop hiding behind humor and start being real. Good, meaning this thing between us is exactly what I think it is, what I've hoped it is, what I've been too afraid to name. The word breaks something open in my chest, some last wall of resistance I've been maintaining out of habit more than conviction. Because suddenly I'm not scared anymore. I'm not thinking about what this might mean for our friendship or how we'll navigate the morning after or any of the 1,000 complications that could arise from crossing this line. All I'm thinking about is how much I want to kiss him. How much I've always wanted to kiss him, even when I didn't let myself acknowledge it. How much I want to know what his mouth tastes like, what sounds he might make, how his hands would feel in my hair. I lean in slowly, giving him time to change his mind, to pull back, to remember all the reasons this might be a mistake. But he doesn't move away. If anything, he moves closer, tilting his face up toward mine, and I can see my own want reflected in his eyes. The distance between us closes gradually, measured in heartbeats and held breath. I can smell his shampoo, feel the warmth radiating from his skin. The blue light from the forgotten movie casts shifting shadows across his face, and I think distantly that this is the most beautiful he's ever looked. When our lips finally meet, it's soft at first, tentative, like we're both still half convinced this isn't really happening. But then he makes this small sound, somewhere between a sigh and a whisper, and something in me breaks open completely. The kiss deepens, becomes something hungry and real, and absolutely nothing like a joke. His hand finds the back of my neck, fingers tangling in my hair, and I think I might be drowning in the best possible way. Every nerve ending in my body seems to have come alive, hyper-aware of every point where we're touching, every place where we could be touching but aren't yet. I pull back just enough to look at him, to make sure this is real, that I haven't imagined the whole thing. His eyes are dark and soft and completely focused on me, and there's something in his expression that makes my chest tight with feeling. You, I say, though I'm not sure what I mean to follow it with. You've been waiting for this. You've wanted this. You're perfect, and I can't believe it took me this long to be brave enough. But I don't need to finish the thought, because he's kissing me again, and words seem unnecessary anyway. Everything I want to say is in the way he touches me, careful but certain, like he's been thinking about this for a long time. Everything I need to know is in the way he responds when I deepen the kiss, when I let my hands find the hem of his shirt, when I press closer until there's no space left between us. We're not talking anymore, not joking, not maintaining any of the careful distance we've built our friendship on. We're just here, finally, completely present with each other in a way we've never allowed ourselves to be. The movie continues playing in the background, but it's completely forgotten now. The only sounds that matter are our breathing, the rustle of sheets as we shift closer together, the small sounds he makes when I kiss the corner of his mouth, the curve of his jaw. This is nothing like the casual experimentation I imagined it might be, nothing like the curiosity or confusion I thought I might feel. This is recognition, pure and simple. This is coming home to something I didn't even know I was looking for. When we finally break apart, both breathing hard, he rests his forehead against mine. His eyes are closed, and there's a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth that makes him look younger somehow, more vulnerable. I want to say something profound, something that captures the magnitude of what just happened between us. But all I can manage is his name, whispered into the small space between us like a prayer or a promise. He opens his eyes and looks at me, and I see everything I'm feeling reflected back at me. Wonder and relief and the particular joy that comes from finally being honest about something you've wanted for a very long time. Outside, the campus is quiet, the rest of the world going about its business. But here, in this small room that's become the center of everything important, we've just crossed a line there's no coming back from. And I've never been happier about anything in my life. Later, when the movie has ended and the laptop screen has faded to black, we're still here. Still tangled together on his narrow bed. Still learning the new geography of what we've become. The room is darker now, lit only by the streetlights filtering through his window, casting everything in soft amber light. I'm lying against his chest, my head tucked into the curve of his shoulder, and I can hear his heartbeat gradually slowing to something closer to normal. His hand rests in my hair, fingers moving absently through the strands, and I think this might be the most peaceful I've ever felt. We haven't talked much since the kissing stopped. There's been some quiet murmuring, fragments of conversation that feel too important and too fragile for the usual back and forth we're used to. When he asked if I was okay, I could only nod against his shoulder, not trusting my voice. When I asked if he'd been thinking about this for a long time, he said yes, so quietly I almost missed it. But mostly we've just been here, existing in this new space we've created, letting the reality of what happened settle around us like dust after an earthquake. The silence isn't uncomfortable. It's the opposite of that. Warm and full and completely without the tension that's been building between us for weeks. It's the silence of questions answered, of truths finally spoken, of two people who no longer have to pretend they don't want exactly what they have. I shift slightly, turning my face up toward his, and find him already looking down at me. There's still wonder in his expression, like he can't quite believe this is real either. Like he's been wanting this for so long that having it feels almost impossible. I think about all the jokes I've made over the past 2 years, all the casual comments about us being together that I delivered with a grin and a shrug. I think about how carefully I constructed each one, making sure there was enough humor to give me an escape route, enough ambiguity to let me pretend I didn't mean what I was saying. But I did mean it. Every single time. Every joke was a confession I wasn't ready to make. Every hypothetical question was a real question I was too afraid to ask directly. Every teasing comment about us being a couple was me testing the waters, seeing if he might want the same thing I was too scared to admit I wanted. The realization should probably embarrass me, but it doesn't. Instead, it feels like relief. Like I can finally stop carrying around this secret that was never really a secret at all, just a truth I wasn't ready to own. His thumb traces along my cheekbone, gentle and deliberate, and I lean into the touch without thinking. Everything about this feels natural in a way that surprises me. I thought crossing this line might be awkward, that we'd have to figure out how to be different people with each other. But we're still us. Still the same two people who've been gravitating toward each other for 2 years, who fit together in ways that have nothing to do with romance and everything to do with recognition. The only thing that's changed is that we're finally being honest about it. I reach for his free hand, threading our fingers together, and he squeezes gently. Our hands rest together on his chest, visible proof of this new reality we've created. No hiding, no pretending, no careful distance maintained for the sake of plausible deniability. This is real. We're real. And for the first time in months, I'm not afraid of that fact. I think about tomorrow, about how we'll navigate the dining hall and study sessions and all the ordinary moments of our friendship now that we've added this new layer. I think about our friends who will probably claim they saw this coming from miles away. I think about the conversations we'll need to have, the definitions we'll need to establish, the thousand small details of becoming something more than what we were. But those thoughts feel distant right now, less important than the warmth of his body against mine, the steady rhythm of his breathing, the way his fingers are still moving through my hair like he's memorizing the texture. What matters is this: the quiet contentment of being exactly where I want to be with exactly the person I want to be with. The relief of finally being honest about something I've been carrying around for longer than I want to admit. The particular joy that comes from discovering that the person you've been falling for has been falling for you too. Outside, the campus is settling into the deep quiet of a weeknight. Somewhere down the hall, someone's music is playing softly. Somewhere across the quad, other students are probably having their own moments of revelation, their own conversations that will change everything. But here, in this small room that's become the center of my world, there's just us. Just the truth we've finally stopped running from, and the future we're brave enough to reach for. I close my eyes and let myself sink deeper into this feeling, this perfect moment of having exactly what I want and finally knowing that I'm allowed to want it. When I was younger, I used to think that the important moments in life would announce themselves somehow, that they'd come with fanfare or drama, with some clear indication that everything was about to change. But this feels quiet and inevitable, like something that was always going to happen once we both got brave enough to let it. The jokes were never jokes at all. They were just confessions waiting for the courage to be taken seriously. And now, finally, wonderfully, they have been.